What's going on, guys? Welcome back to part 2 of the $400 Honda XR100r rebuild project. Last week we picked up a 2002 Honda XR100r and found out that the subframe was bent. We ended up having to bend it back. We did some welding, the steering stops were broke. All the metal and welding fabrication repair was done over on my welding and fabrication channel, so I'll put a link to that if you want to see how we bent the frame straight and whatnot. In the first episode, we found a huge nest inside the airbox, and this carburetor was probably the worst carburetor I have ever encountered personally. It is basically completely destroyed due to ethanol fuel. This passageway right here was not allowing air to flow through it down into the main jet. So with a bunch of dental picks, I was able to dig it out. So hopefully that works now. So in this episode, we are going to get this carburetor rebuilt with a rebuild kit I got from K&L. I paid for this with my money, but I think these are probably the best rebuild kits on the market. They're made in Japan, and I've never had bad luck with them. And I printed off a diagram online just in case I get fouled up of what goes where. I don't think I will, but it's always good to have a reference so you're not scurrying around last minute. And it's always good to have a nice, clean work area when you're doing stuff like this. So this pan is from my wife's kitchen, and I use this for all kinds of projects. She doesn't know I have it, so go grab yourself one. It works good for carburetors. You can clean chains on it and stuff like that. It works really good. All right, so here is the emulsion tube. We'll put that in first. Then there should be a main jet in here somewhere, right here. And I have checked, the jet sizes are the same. And you want good screwdrivers too, guys, when you're working with carburetors. Might as well grab a JIS while I'm here. These are great too, guys, if you're going to do carburetor work or work on Japanese motorcycles. Get yourself a nice JIS screwdriver. What looks to be Phillips head on these Japanese bikes, they're not. They're called Japanese Industrial Standard. You don't got to go crazy with these either. Here's the pilot jet. This is typically the one, guys, when you're working on carburetors, small engines, lawnmowers, or anything. Not usually this one that'll foul up. The jet might, but sometimes the emulsion tube will. But generally, if your machine needs to run on choke, it's because this is the culprit. This makes it run on choke. These plug up, these little venturis, the little holes in the end, and that's what keeps it from running properly, making you having to run it on choke. Put in the needle and the float. Probably have to look up what the specs are on this carb as far as float height, but I can probably just guess and get it pretty close. And as I told you in last week's video, these press from small to long side. So the way you set a float height, guys, is you do it on its side, and you find out just where it makes contact, and that's right there. Well, now they're hanging right there, so generally, as a typical rule, they're usually parallel with the body of the carburetor. So we can put this back together. I'm just putting a little bit of grease in here, guys. It helps the O-ring hold into the channel. You don't want to go nuts, but just put a little bit in there, be fine. I just use grease out of just an acid brush for plumbing. See how that grease kind of works like an adhesive to help hold that in. Trying to make sure you don't have too much of that grease inside the float bowl. So this goes on here, and that keeps, I guess, fuel from sloshing around. Yes, it does. Just like that. There. And it even comes with new screws, which is really nice. Another great tool to have, guys, when you're working on carburetors is a nice pick set like this. And it works good to dig out O-rings and stuff. So There's that. Got my parts tray, and we'll grab another one. Do the same thing with this. Grab a little bit of grease, put it on there, help lube up that O-ring when it gets seated in. Here's the idle screw. I think that one also gets another O-ring. Alright, there, we get this lubed up, the O-ring, put in the idle screw. So now this is where some people have a tendency they can get a little fouled up, because this is where the pilot screw goes in. So that's this, and then in here it's got a spring, it's got an O-ring, and it's got a washer. So you need to make sure that all that goes in inside. And you need to verify that they're not inside your carburetor too, that during the cleaning process they're not still in there, or they may have fallen out. So got a spring that goes onto the pilot. Then you're going to have a small washer, and then a tiny O-ring. Then that's going to go up into the carburetor carefully. And my original carburetor was 1 1/4 turns out is what mine was set at, which doesn't seem about right. So half, 1 would be 1 1/2, so 1 1/4. Let's try that. So we are to the point where we can get ready to put on the carb, but I also ordered a new, oh my god, throttle tube and throttle housing. So I'm going to lube up the cable and clean the cable, because if we're going to do it, we might as well have it all working like new, right? And check out that. That's what we were hearing when we turned the throttle. Listen. We'll clean that up, make that a little better. Yeah, there we go. I just put it in the vise just so I got something to hold on to, so I can have free hands. There we go. I can hear it coming out the bottom now, or I can hear air coming out. Hear that? Look at that. That's what we want. In one side and out the other. Forces all the garbage out of it. Yeah. Good. All right, now we can put it back on the bike. I just took a little bit of a wire wheel and just ran a wire wheel over the tube just to get off any of the surface rust. Now I'm just going to put a thin coat of grease on the tube just so that there's no rusting and stuff like that. I don't want too much on there because I don't want it to attract dirt, you know. So guys, I just realized that the airbox was pretty filthy, so I took the airbox out of the bike because now there's no time better than the present to clean it up while we're right here. So this looks really good. I'm just using some degreaser and just getting in here. What you want to do is just grab your wife's toothbrush and just make sure you put it back when you're done. But yeah, that works good. You can get in like real tight areas with it and stuff like that. You won't get in trouble as long as she doesn't know. Alright, I'm just going to finish cleaning her up, then we'll rinse her off and we'll put it back in and see how it looks. Alright, so we're at the point now we can stuff the carburetor in it. I've got it adjusted up on the grip so that without the idle screw being in or making any contact with anything, that the slide automatically hits the bottom of the carburetor. And there's just a little bit of play right here. So you don't want the cable holding up the idle basically. And then we'll just turn our idle screw in just a little bit so that we can see the slide just come up a little. There it is, right there. So there. So now the slide is actually hitting the idle screw. There. So now the idle screw is controlling the idle, not the cable adjustment. I was going to get it on the bike and get it started, but my thoughts is that I want to rebuild this suspension. There's a little bit of touch-up I need to do around in here. The airbox is out, so to get it running right, the airbox should be in, the filter should be in, all that stuff. So let's get this back suspension off. We'll just quickly rebuild the linkage bearings, and I've also got some new wheel bearings for the rear wheel. So we'll put the new wheel bearings in, we'll remove the rear tire, we'll get this rear suspension done. Then I can like do a little bit of touch-up around the back. Then we can put the carburetor on and the airbox and we'll be good to go. Make sense? Yeah, these suspension bushings are bad. You'll be able to see a lot more too once we get it apart. But make it just so the rear tire touches. Right there. Grab onto that. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a minute since it's seen some lube, I think. Actually, not that bad. But I ordered a new set anyways. So this is the bearing kit right here. So seal and 2 bearings. So that's what we got to take out. But while we're here, might as well get the tire off. At least get this part done. Actually, instead of wrestling around, I'm just going to put it on my tire stand thing that I built. And this is what I use to change tires, guys. And I just built this. If you want to see how I did it, I'll give you a link over onto my welding channel. But yeah, this is really slick. Pretty simple. And all this is just a cutting board that I got at Walmart. And it just sits on like that. Oh, what's this? Got a patch tube in it? If that's the case, I'll just buy a new tube. That's what it looks like, doesn't it? So rather than put the bike back together and put the tire on and all that stuff, I'm going to hold off because I don't want to lose a day of riding over a $9 tube, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to go out and buy new tubes and be done with it. Might as well do it right. I'm going to order the band that goes around this, get a new tube, then we can do it the right way. But there's plenty to do in the meanwhile, so what I'll do is I'm just going to soak all these parts right here. Just soak them in some water, get them kind of somewhat clean, then we can address them here right off. This stuff's called Purple Power. I just get it at Walmart. I buy it by the like 2-gallon jug. All right, let's put everything in there. Put the wheel lock in. I have an ultrasonic cleaner coming too, guys. It should be in today. So parts like this would be awesome. Just throw it in there. Be done with it. Yeah. Let's start by taking off the top shock. I'm going to try to take out as much of this assembly as one piece as I can. Then we can get it over here on the bench and work on it instead of doing it upside down. That was easy. Yeah, so the swing arm pivot, this bolt that I just took off, the part that pivots this up and down, that's one set of bushings, and then the shock linkage and all that is another set. So I got them both. I don't have this one coming yet though. This one, it should be here today or tomorrow. So this next part, I pretty much just kind of fast forwarded it so you guys could see me do it. I wasn't talking as I did it just because it was very detail oriented. There's a lot of parts and a lot of pieces that I was working on, and I really just kind of wanted to focus on what I was doing at hand and not have to narrate and explain it as I was going, because I was kind of just doing it as I went. So I got the new kit and laid everything out in front of me and just kind of looked it all over so I could see what I had. So as I took the old stuff apart, I kind of knew what I was looking for and how things went. I took a bunch of pictures because it's real important when you do stuff like this that you don't get all disoriented and get everything all screwed up. So I ended up pushing everything out and got all the old plastic bushings out, and the new ones are actually metal roller bearings, which are really nice. It should last a long time. I made sure to put a lot of grease and pack everything nice to keep any water and moisture out of it. And then I just took my time and pushed everything out, pushed everything back in, and it was all pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. I didn't have any problems at all whatsoever. This is the last one, and this is just a little thin bushing. That's that. So that's this one right here. So while I'm right here and have it oriented so I don't forget, I'm going to put it in right now. Alright guys, it's the next day and I just finished assembling all these pieces. I did it off camera just because it was kind of a little bit time consuming pressing these in, but they're all in, they're all done, and this is all the garbage that I pulled out of them. So I got a few bolts and stuff. My parts cleaner just came in, my ultrasonic cleaner, and I want to basically toss them in and see how it works. And I've got some brake parts in here and stuff, so I'm going to go bring these over to the ultrasonic cleaner and see how it works. I've got some simple green in it right now, and we'll just put some parts in, and then we'll add some water. I think it's got to be like an inch below the top. There, and turn it on the back. And let's put it in for 20 minutes. What is 70 Celsius? Let's gotta figure out what that is. Oh wow. Listen to that. Oh my god, look guys. I get a shock. Look at the stuff come off it. Look at that. That's kind of cool. Look at like the grease come off that bolt. That's pretty sweet, huh? Check this out. It went up to 70 degrees Celsius, which I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. I'd have to look it up, but I had it in for like 30 minutes. And I'll tell you what, guys, it is hot. Oh my God, yeah. My initial impression is that they're super clean, but I got to get this out of here. It's too hot to grab. Let me get some gloves on. So far, my initial impression, just that quick glance that I just saw, guys, looks pretty impressive. Oh, wow. Look at that. I haven't even touched these parts either. Look how clean they are. That's awesome. Sweet. It's hot. I can't even touch the parts. They're so hot. But yeah, there's like no film on it whatsoever. Look at this. Remember this one, guys? This was that chain slider that had all that sticky goo on it. Look at that. Wow, impressive. I'm real happy. It may seem like I'm kind of like hopping all around a little bit, and I think I probably am, but I'm just trying to like put assemblies together, you know, clean something and get it to the point where I can put it all back together and then set it aside as an assembly. And what kind of nice, I ordered new brake pads for the back, and new brake shoes, I should say, and they actually came with springs, so that's a bonus. But the other shoes didn't look bad in comparison to the wear, but I mean, these really look almost brand new, but that's fine. It'll be okay. We'll save the other ones as spares. Now, these all are pretty similar, I think, and when I did my other Honda quad, that TRX-70, I feel like there might have been like a felt washer that went in here, but I could be wrong. But I'll have to look at the parts diagram, but I think there probably is supposed to be one. I think it goes to the outside right there. So that would mean that goes like that. Then a spring goes in here. And a spring goes up top there. It's like that. Then one underneath. This is just synthetic grease. It's made for brakes. Now this is just a little indicator that tells you when the brakes are worn out a little bit, and see where it's hitting over here and it shouldn't have been, and it's keyed so it can only go in one way. The way that works, when you pull the brake, it just expands those. Wow, and those work super smooth right now. Alright guys, just going to fast forward just a little bit because you didn't really need to see me do this. You know what painting is like. So I just took a Scotch-Brite scuffy pad and just scuffed up this back subframe and then just sprayed it down with some rattle can spray paint and then just threw some clear coat on it. I did the same thing with this swing arm. I actually took this and sandblasted it just using a little small portable sandblaster, and put a couple coats of paint on it, then just shot some clear on it. And yeah, it's not perfect. We could have done powder coating on this, but again, trying to stay within like the budget theme and get it done within a reasonable amount of time before summer's over, because I've already torn this bike apart way more than I would have actually intended to tear it apart. But that's just kind of like me. I have a hard time sometimes drawing a line of where I want to stop. You know, as soon as I put my hands on something and it doesn't seem quite right, it just makes me want to replace it so that it is. So, but anyways, guys, so off camera, I just pushed these bushings in, just using a bench vise. Nothing overly complicated with that. So you can see I've got the linkage and stuff over here with all new pressed bearings and stuff like that, but it doesn't come with the swing arm kit. When I was working on the swing arm, I noticed that the far side over there, which would be the left of the bike as you're sitting on it, had a little bit of play in it. So rather than live with it, we're gonna fix it. Make sense? I'm sure it's pretty self-explanatory. It looks like it would be. Yeah, so that's it right there. Couple bushings and a pin. That's just what we have there. See about getting this stuff fixed. Oh yeah, look at that. Pretty rotted up, huh? All this is just a plastic bushing, and all I have is a nice, really sharp chisel, and it's not a very big point on it, as you can see. And just kind of like splitting it, just like that. And then I'm just kind of going down the inside with it. And once I'm all the way through down the inside, then I just grab it with vice grip. And I just did this, and it came right out. It's like that. All right, I'll just clean up the inside of that with a rag, and then push the new ones in. All right, and just grab a bushing. Should be pretty straightforward. Ooh, those go in a little dry. I'm gonna fill this right up full of grease. Yeah, pack that grease right in there. All right, so we got the swing arm on. Now I'm just gonna continue moving forward, putting in these seals. And it would have been nice to do new bolts and all that, but I gotta draw the line somewhere on this build, guys, and consider it, you know, a budget thing. So I can always go back through and paint the bolt heads if that's the problem, you know. This just helps keep any water from getting into those needle bearings. There, gaining. Now we just have this one to connect to the swing arm. Like I said, I'm just getting all the hardware through, and then we'll go back through after and torque everything to spec, wipe everything down, and then touch up any of the bolt heads that look terrible. What do you think of that, guys? Huh? That looks a lot better, huh? Get everything all tightened down. This thing should handle pretty good now. Just finished torquing a bunch of these suspension bolts just because it's hard to get on film and me moving around and stuff. So if you guys are working on this, I figured I'd just tell you what the torque specs are. So the upper shock mount, that's 33. The swing arm bolt right here is 47. And again, these torque figures I'm giving you, they're for 2,000 and up machines, or I don't know where the cutoff is, but I know that they begin at 2,000. I don't know where it ends. So 33, 47. All these pivot links, that's 33, 33, 33, and the lower shock mount is 25. So hopefully that helps. And because I really want to get this to a point where we can fire this thing up, I'd like to start putting it back together. So let's get the air box in it. And what I did on the last Honda project that I did, I kind of went around to keep things budget minded, is I went through, after I kind of put things together, I saw the bolts that I didn't really like the looks of, that were really visibly exposed, and those are the ones that I actually went to Bell Metric and bought different hardware for, just to help, you know, spruce and dress things up a little bit. And I very well might do that same thing here. You know, some of the hardware looks nice, others look ratty, you know. You could actually bolt the carburetor on. Might as well, right here. No time like the present, I guess. Probably take these out. That might make it run a little rough, huh? Put a little bit of grease on stuff, kind of like aids in taking it apart down the road, so like this gasket doesn't stick to the manifold and tear, you know. And these don't require a lot of tension, guys. There's just bring them down to touch and that's it. Actually to the point where we could run it if we wanted, if we put the exhaust on. All right, I think this is all pre-oiled, or it should be anyways. I'll put a little bit of grease on the seal. I don't know if it matters, but it's definitely not a bad thing to do. Let's help seal it a little bit better. See if I can get this cover to look a little bit better. Maybe we'll just torch it real quick. See if we can get some black back to it. Yeah, that looks a lot better. That's acceptable in my book. Yep, that blackened it up pretty good. Good enough. Let's button her up. Oh yeah, look at that, guys. That's like night and day. Way better. Looks like brand new. Isn't this like a rewarding feeling, guys? I don't know. It is for me. Maybe it's not the same because you guys aren't doing it to something that you have, but it just feels so good taking something that looks kind of rough and ratty and just make it nice again. That's all back together. How good that looks. Yep, that was wicked good. Oh yeah, look at that. Yep. All right, let's see if we can do a little over here. Yeah, look at that, guys. It brightened it right up, huh? Probably, see, like something like this is what you'd really see a lot of. I think with that tire in there, you kind of like look down and see it here. You might not see the linkage underneath, but you definitely see these rotted bolts. So put a couple stainless bolts in there, dial it right in. Holy smokes, guys. My workshop looks like a disaster. I've never seen it looking like this. I got parts everywhere. I got pieces and new parts and wheels on the floor and welders everywhere. And anyways, I'm going to show you guys how I get my parts looking brand new. And I know I've mentioned in some other videos about how I sandblast them at home, and I do it real cheap with a commercially available little hand sandblaster, and it works awesome. So let's bring some of these parts outside and I'll start sandblasting them up. I'm going to take care of all of these parts and getting them looking like new again. Sandblast them down, paint them up, and yeah, we'll be in good shape. I'll show you how I do it. All right, guys, so I just got my parts out here. This is how I do it. I'm just going to keep it real brief because this video is probably getting pretty long, but I have all my parts out here laid out. I ground down, this had been repaired, so I ground that down to smooth it up to make it look like one piece again. I didn't do the repair, I just ground it up, made it look a little bit better. And this is how I do it. Here's the business end of it, and you can see I'll put links down in the description to all of this stuff, guys, if you're interested. But I use this all the time. I've had this for years, and this is a wicked awesome tool. It's just handheld. You put your sand in there. This is all there is to it. Then I just have a little abrasive hood that I put on, and it's super easy. Now the line that I'm using, everything about this is my setup is completely wrong for what it says that this needs, but it works. So I have a 1/4 inch line. You should have like probably a 1/2 inch line. My air compressor is like half the CFM that this requires, but again, it just works. So I think it's a recommendation if you just wanted to sandblast and do it non-stop. You could, but it's not necessary. All I have is just a little 5 horsepower 30-gallon horizontal Craftsman. It runs on 120 volt air compressor. It's nothing fancy. So, and this is the abrasive stuff I run, guys. It's just glass shards, and I buy this through my local rental company that actually rents like sandblasters, so you can get it cheap there. I think for this bag, it's a 50-pound bag, I think it's like $5, so it's really cheap. Can't remember how much this is. This is, I think, well under 100, and it works really slick. You'll see. This is how I do it. I cut the corner to the bag, and then I can just kind of like meter it in real carefully. Like I say, it's only $5 a bag, so if you spill a little bit, it's not like it's the end of the world. Yeah, that's that. And then it's just got an off on right there. That's it. Then you just connect your air hose there. Now all I do is I just put on that hood and start sandblasting. I'll set you up on a tripod so you guys can see. Hopefully, I'll try. And as much as I really wanted to get this running in this week's episode, guys, I really do not like to rush things and take shortcuts. So I promise you, we will have this running in the next episode. How well it runs, I don't know. We'll find out, but we will have it running. So, and we'll hopefully get this pretty much all back together. I don't know if it'll be complete, but it'll be pretty close. If you're wondering about any of the tools or the things that you see me using in this video, you can click the links down below. I'll also have links to my welding and fabrication channel if you want to see how we straightened the frame or did any of the metal or welding fabrication on this channel, or how I built that little stand, that tire change stand over there. I'll have a link to that as well. So new videos every Friday, guys. Until next week, I'll see you then. Take care, stay safe, stay motivated. See ya.